Island by looks like for you. Good.
Good morning, everyone.
For doing that rescheduling.
Yeah. Thanks for setting all of this up. Like, it was only one click and it opened.
It's a lot for one person to be two people and be yourself too.
Trying.
Yeah. You can do it, Mel. Good morning, everyone. Dave is at the Passenger Rail Summit in Billings. So you just have me and Josh. So take it away, Annie.
And Allison.
And Allison, of course.
Yeah. I have myself, Annie Cathy, Chris Lounsbury, Dylan Jex, Eric Dixon, Aaron Couts, Jason Emery, Jason Hauser, Melissa Fisher, Vincent Pavlish, Martin Kitston, and MCAT. In 206, we have Commissioners Vero and Slotnick, and we have Allison France.
Thanks, Annie. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? Does anything need to be pulled out and discussed separately? I don't.
I mean, could we just highlight a couple things on the consent
go for it.
agenda? Just that we're looking at a pretty good chunk of money from the state to help funding with mobile support team and with the Missoula County Mental Health Coordinator. And these are two really important positions, important programs that help move us forward in terms of community mental health. And it's not local taxpayer money and great things being funded.
Thanks for saying that. Not local taxpayer money.
And great things happening.
Exactly. Okay, was that your motion?
That is my motion to make sure we pass this consent agenda.
Okay, second, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, action item, Eric Dixon with PSA for Highmark Traffic Services.
Yes, good morning. So this year's budget, we had a reduced amount for our usual striping program, and we were unable to get the state low bidder to include our work with theirs. By the time we got to it, they were here and gone, I believe. So with our estimated budget, we did a limited solicitation. We sent that out to 3 different striping contractors that we've worked with in the past. We only received 1 response from Highmark Traffic Services. They work here in town. We've worked with them many times in the past. They're very helpful, very responsive. They're ready to start the work later this week or early next week. So we would recommend that the contract be executed.
Hey, Eric, is this a dollar amount you feel okay about?
Yes, we actually got a little advice from City Traffic Services. You know, for the past many years, we've been using epoxy paint. Last year, it was a little difficult to find the material itself, so we used some waterborne, and we're talking with the city this year. They recommended a little higher quality, a higher durability waterborne paint. This is right in line with what other prices are. So for the fact that we're not exactly sure when these roads that we're striping will be overlaid, we think it's a good investment to do water-based instead of the more expensive epoxy that would be, I don't even know what the current price is, but it's, a better effort to use the waterborne paint on these roads. It's going to last as long, hopefully, as we need it to be in place before we can get these roads overlaid that are in pretty rough shape. So
how many miles is this going to cover? I don't have the thing in front of us.
12 or 13 miles, I think, because we have all of Paddy Canyon, which is about 3.5, and then the loop of Blue Mountain, Big Flat, and Kona Ranch Road. So that's about a 10-mile stretch.
Well-traveled roadways.
Yes.
Well, I would move we approve the PSA, and thanks for making this happen.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thanks so much. Chris Lounsbury with a 401A plan.
Never heard of that one.
Good afternoon, commissioners, or good morning, commissioners. Sorry, it's not afternoon yet. So Chris Lounsbury, Chief Administrative Officer. So what you have before you today is a request to authorize the chair to sign documents to create a 401A plan for Missoula County. So a little bit of background here. Missoula County participates currently in what is known as a 457 plan. These are IRS code numbers. That's what those numbers all mean, 401 and 457. The 457 plan allows employees to contribute to a tax-deferred retirement option that's available in addition to Montana's Public Employee Retirement System, or PERS. A 401A plan allows employers to contribute, and where we see this being applicable in particular is at our federally qualified health center, where they are requesting some flexibility in different ways to compensate employees that they might be recruiting for particularly difficult professions in the medical sphere primarily. This may at some point be used in the future by the county should we have particularly difficult positions to recruit, but primarily right now its creation is around Partnership Health Center, our federally qualified health center partner.
Great, thanks. I actually remember talking about this now.
I just didn't realize it
I
was
didn't
called the
have a number.
401A.
I didn't know the
Yeah.
number. I remembered the program, but didn't get the number.
They are, you know, if they had actual names instead of IRS code numbers, they'd be more memorable. But no, we're going to use IRS code numbers.
All right, I would move that we approve the resolution authorizing the chair to sign plan documents to create the 401A plan.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, commissioners. And Commissioner Vero, you will get an email from AIG Valak with a DocuSign for the actual plan document in addition to the resolution today.
Okay, not Adobe.
I love when I get those little.
It will be from
warnings,
Adobe. It
otherwise
will be
I'm afraid
Adobe.
to open.
Oh,
That's
but
why
it's
I'm
going to be
saying that.
legit Adobe this time.
But it will be legit Adobe, and it will be from AIG Valak.
I
Okay.
didn't even know there was anything legit about Adobe. I always thought if it's Adobe, it's not real and I'm going to get in trouble and screw it up. Generally afraid.
Thank you. Okay, Jason Hauser. PSA with A&E.
Good morning. So this is a contract amendment for the election center complex. This is to basically add in the services needed for the elections office moving forward to do the remodel at the elections office. They're going to design, and on this there'll be the initial schematic designs. They'll go through final construction documents all the way through construction administration for the construction, the office, Bradley's office.
So this is the
The
building in
other
the front,
building.
the building kind of on Russell Street.
Yes, sir. Yep, the one that has not been done yet. Yep.
Yeah.
And so essentially, we're just trying to get this up to snuff for ADA. There'll be a lift put in there. We'll rearrange some things, add some service. Sorry. Add some I'm very technical, so I got that. I didn't get that
No
phone
worries.
shut off. I did not. They'll add some queues where they can service the public a little more readily out of that building. They'll upgrade the bathrooms to ADA. They'll do some minor lifts to the building to get it suitable for the near future.
Thanks.
Near future.
Near future. Well, we like that. All right, I would move the board approve the PSA with A&E.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
So Jason, I have one important question for you though. Are there any salmon left in Alaska?
We did pretty good, but we
Good for
left
you,
a few in
man.
the we left a few in the water. We did pretty good. We came back with 100 pounds of fillets, I think, each.
Oh,
man.
that's amazing.
Yeah, so
That's
we
fantastic.
and then about 20 pounds of halibut fillets, and so about 120 pounds of fish in 7 days, 8 days.
That's glorious, man.
It is some of the most beautiful red salmon. I mean, it's gorgeous.
man.
Yeah.
Wow.
My sisters and brothers, they all really enjoy the fact that I go to Alaska.
I bet everybody does. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you eat vegetables, but if you want to do any trading, we
Oh, I love veggies.
Yeah.
Maybe we should sit down and have a chit chat.
let's
I'd love
do
to.
that. Yeah, yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
All right.
And
Reach
I'd
out.
also like to get some beta on the trip because it's a dream to do that, and hopefully next summer I could.
Yeah, my one buddy's been doing it for 30 years, and so he's got it dialed pretty good. We go as far as just renting like an RV so we can drive wherever we want. We have the vehicle in one, we have an RV, place to sleep. We should talk because I've got.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
love to learn, man. Wow,
Absolutely.
thank you.
You
Great,
bet.
and welcome back.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
See you soon.
Correspondence? Okay, wildfire update. Adrian. Or Chris.
Whoops, there we go. Hi, commissioners. I don't believe we have Adrian on today. I will say that to the best of my knowledge, we don't have any activity or significant activity currently occurring in our area. I do know that Adrian is working closely with our partners with the Missoula County Fire Protection Association to make sure that both our fire danger and any need for restrictions are closely coordinated, but I've not heard yet that we're going to be moving into restrictions. So.
Great.
We had a nice little lightning strike up in Greeno at the confluence of the Clearwater and Blackfoot, and
That's
DNRC
totally-
Wildland Fire were great, and Greeno Potomac Fire were great, and
Wow,
neighbors were great. So thanks everyone for.
that was quite a picture. So lightning strike, bam, they were right there.
Yeah, it was Saturday night when I don't know if you guys had a big storm here.
Oh, I
Over
was
here.
up north, but it was like a lightning shower.
It was a lightning shower. Yes.
Yeah, it largely moved around the downtown valley, but I was going to say we did get a little bit of rain and wind from it, but nowhere near the lightning that was around the valley. So,
Man. So did you guys find it? I mean, who
A
called it in?
neighbor, everyone was watching, but a neighbor saw smoke and texted me a photo. And
Wow.
by the time ranch folks got there, DNRC folks were already there. It was perfect. And then and it was close to the road so everyone could watch, and it was a great show for everyone.
Wow.
So thank
Glad
you.
It ended well.
Events and invitations. Signing.
so
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
so actually, commissioners, we have one unplanned discussion item that just came up today. We had a request to use courtroom 3
Oh, I
in the
remember
Missoula
that.
County
Yes.
Courthouse. Yep.
Next year
By
this morning.
by a campaign here in town to be able to do some photography in the courthouse. I did check with Chief Judge Vanetta just to see if the court had any use of that space on the night that is being proposed. It is an after hours activity. They do not, and he did remind me that there have been several cases of the courtroom being used for this purpose in the past. So
in
unless
Missoula or in other places?
both in Missoula and in other locations. That it has been used in the past as a setting for campaign photos for various campaigns. And we do have Vincent Pavlish on with us as well, one of our deputy county attorneys as well, who might be able to help answer any questions you might have.
So
What do you
I
think?
have one.
Sorry,
I'm
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I have one question. My gut impulse on this is that I really appreciate the courtroom as a symbol of impartiality and nervousness that it's associated with any political campaign. And I would, and here what you have to say, Vinny, but I would feel much better about saying no to all, not no to one, but no to all. That no, just a blanket no. Our courtrooms are not going to be used as symbols in politics for any one person or party.
Sorry, to the extent that you're
Tell me
asking
the
for,
peril of what peril did I bring upon us by
well,
advocating?
I don't think, for a start, I might start with a different default position, just as you're thinking about public properties. And that's that it's the public's property really. And so while we're managing it for them, if they have a use for it that doesn't interfere with our management of that property, we should really be open to the idea of them using it for those purposes, even if we maybe you're nervous about the imprimatur, the look of the courthouse being used in politics, which gets more and more kind of iffy year by year. I don't mean to say that you can't do that, because we are managing this property and you're responsible for it. But I think if you wanted to have a blanket policy of no use for this purpose, you would probably want to do that in a much more formal way so that the public could comment on it and give you some ideas about what's going on, as opposed to in response to an individual request. And part of the reason that I say that is if you set policy in response to an individual request like this without more thorough process, increase the risk that somebody's going to have a beef with it. And I think there's probably a better way to go about it. Like Chris said, and one of the things that we talked about in our conversation about this beforehand too, is that the courthouse actually is open to a bunch of different public uses, and the cases that are have to deal with this are actually meant to be more protective of public officers who have more restrictions on what they can use government property for than other people do. But these types of uses are approved for government officials as well, because if a citizen could come in, for example, who is, let's say, running against one of you and use some component like the way the courthouse looks or something in their advertising, well, you should be able to do that as well. And so that's the flavor of the cases that are coming towards it.
So I think I really like what you're saying about a process. This is not a process. This is just an answer to a request. And if we're going to make a policy, we should definitely have a process. I totally agree. And I'm also going to stick with my inclination on a blanket no, because I could certainly imagine political groups wanting to use a symbol like this whose views are anathema to most people. Let's say just some sort of hate group, some group that is advocating very radical positions that verge on violence towards others. No one would want their views associated with our courtroom or our facilities or our anything we owned by the public. And I don't want to be in the position of having to differentiate between that group and maybe folks who want to fundraise for the library or something where it's pretty benign and hard to say no to. I'd rather see us with it's just no, and then we don't have to get into this business of parsing anything. But I really like what you had to say about process and would love to figure out how we do that.
So what do we do about this moment? Sorry, Vinny, go ahead.
Well, and I can understand where you're coming from. There's definitely, whenever you allow people to speak in a location, there's risk that distasteful speech is a component of what we see there. I think I think having a more robust conversation about that is probably wise for the board before you land on the decision to not allow any uses. And the current, there isn't that policy in place right now. And so the default position is, do we allow the courthouse to be open to other uses? And the answer to that question is yes. So in this instance, the decision that you're making is this a different enough use that you want to draw a line in the sand right now without a policy or process and say no to this particular person? And to me, that strikes me as a little bit risky. So I would say that you approve this use and then take up how you want the courthouse to be used moving forward in a more robust process.
So Chris, didn't we go through a process when there was conversation about using the outside of the courthouse for displays of certain symbols at different times of the year?
Yes, yeah, we have had robust conversations around that with Brian and whether or not there are limitations we should consider and what would be appropriate for that. And I certainly think, again, as Vinny mentioned, if this is something that you want to explore, we can certainly draft a proposed policy around that and bring that to you. It doesn't really resolve the issue for today, I know, in a way that's necessarily satisfactory, but I think we could definitely do that so that you'd have something similar.
Okay, so
did we come up with a policy when we were working with Brian on this, or did we not? I thought we did.
Well, yeah, I'd say so. We at the end of the day, the commission decided not to adopt a formal policy because we did not. There weren't comfortable, clear, bright lines, is the way that I will describe it, so that we were not potentially infringing on other rights. Because as you'll recall, the request came up specifically around holiday displays.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and that was the lighting a different discussion, or is that part of the same
I
discussion?
think it's part of the same. I thought we decided just a blanket no. But
We did on the lighting, yes, of it, but not necessarily on displays.
So, okay, so for right now, the default position for this request is,
can we do a default no until we do a process?
well,
I
that's
mean,
what
you can do that. It's just that I think that increases the risk that the candidate who's interested in using this, maybe sues us or something like that. And I don't know that that's a great idea without having done the process first. I think
Well, it would
default
be-
no on this position is a little bit harder to arrive at than a default yes.
It would be no to all, so it's not no to this candidate, but yes to some other candidate. So the candidate will be equal.
I hope he will understand that, but that's not always the way that it goes when people don't get to do the thing that they want in public places.
And if we were to say no and he was to sue us, what would be the worst case scenario there?
I couldn't predict.
I mean, do we pay millions of dollars in damages? I mean, what's the harm done that he would be able to demonstrate?
I mean, I because it would be hard for me to anticipate the kind of claim that he would make about it. What the general force of the claim might be is that the government stepped in to infringe upon his political free speech. And so, yeah, there's lots of risk there, but I don't know what verdicts would look like or anything like that. That'd be well into the future.
I guess I'm comfortable with the default, the default yes, and going forward with a process like Vinny's suggesting, but I totally hear what you're saying. But
I just,
is there a time, I mean, oops, Jason Hauser, your hand up.
Sorry about this. You brought up the lighting of the courthouse. That request has
Yeah.
come again this year for coloring it purple. And so I just want clarification. Are we gonna be, like, I requested that they submit a form about a month ago and they have not yet done that, and they want to do it here in the next week and a half. Should my response be an automatic default to no? Like, I didn't get the request because I wanted to put it in front of you guys again for an action item to discuss. I have not received that request in writing yet. I can reach out to ask for that, but we're coming up on no time to discuss. So I guess I'm just asking for some guidance.
Clarification.
Yeah.
Where are we, Chris and Vinny?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that Brian isn't here because he's the one who really led the lighting discussion
out of
around the
town right
courthouse.
now?
So, and he is out of town. I don't know if he's out of town or in court. So
Brian
know
would
he's not.
hate that I'm saying this on a public meeting. It's his birthday.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we may need to follow up on the lighting piece on Thursday when Brian is back in the office. On that, what I recall from that conversation is that the decision was that we would not do lighting going into the future. But I may be mistaken about that. So I would want Brian to.
And what
weigh
did
in
Judge?
also, but that is what I recall.
Okay, so we'll wait for Thursday to discuss again about lighting with Brian. And then remind me what you said, Judge Vanetta.
He said it's.
Yeah,
fine.
so I'm happy to read you what Judge Vanetta said. So he specifically said courtroom 3 is a public space and therefore may be used by the public as long as it doesn't disrupt court operations. I've made sure that the judge knows to remove any personal effects from that. I know candidates for state district judge and others have used courtroom 3 for campaign photos in the past, so there is precedent for such use. Please make sure that we advise whoever is going to be there for that night to lock the courtroom after its use, which we would do anyway.
And one thing that might, where the comparison to the lighting situation is actually very legally distinct in the sense that when we light up the courthouse, that's an affirmative action of the government doing something. And so the restrictions on the way that we do that or how we make decisions about it are slightly different than we're allowing somebody else to use our space to do something. That's less affirmative action on behalf of the government than it is, allowing them to make use of a space that's partially theirs.
Man,
That
Vinny, that
distinction
really
may not
seems like.
make much of a difference to you when you decide what you want to do with the policy, and that's fine. It's just making this decision on an item that wasn't on the agenda in the first place that strikes me as risky.
Those two things you brought up seem to me like a difference of degree, not in kind. That they're both public spaces. The saying yes is yes. Yes means affirmative, right? It's an affirmative action, and I am nervous about anyone using that space for with a political goal that it may appear to the public that the county endorses that goal, and I'm feeling really reluctant on that, and would way rather just hit pause and have a process and publicly notice it and invite people to talk about it, and we reach some conclusion and in the very best way in terms of process. I agree with you that deciding here and now is not that process at all.
Can we discuss this on Friday?
I mean, or
on
could we
Thursday?
could we notice this on Thursday, have a hearing, have people come talk, and or do we need more time than that?
I mean, as legally, I don't think that there's a problem with putting something on your agenda and then talking about it with more opportunity for the public to interact. I mean, the way this policy might look and the kinds of review that our office might want to have before you set it down in stone might take longer than the 2 days. My understanding from Chris is that because of the nature of the campaign season, he wants to get this space used on Thursday anyway. So it just, the robust process might not work out in a time frame, that's that short, 2 days.
Is there anything that can
That's
be done between now
unfortunate.
and, yeah,
I
that
mean,
can be done now?
Yeah, I mean, our processes aren't obligated to fit the campaign schedule for any candidate. And this person came to us with this request, highlighting a need for an answer to a question that has not yet been highlighted, and we appreciate that. And our schedule is not the same as any candidates for any office.
But I guess what Judge Veneta was saying, that there is precedence, and so is it?
Sure. Yeah.
So by going back to the
I just,
default,
and then next week, some insanely vile group whose views are anathema to every thinking person in our county wants to use the courthouse. And then we are also showing the world that we're good enough with them as well. And I would way rather have more process on this than say yes or no right now.
so what can be done on Thursday? If we pause this to discuss on Thursday, at Thursday's?
And I'd also love to hear what Brian has to say, given I know he did some research and spent some time on the lighting issue, and maybe some of the things he discovered would be pertinent to discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you could put this on your agenda for Thursday. At least if it's on the actual agenda, then that gives some folks some notice. And you might hear from the candidate as well, who might have some thoughts about how you should
That's
think
great.
about using public
Hey,
property. But
that's
that's
great.
another thing, is like, that person isn't here and didn't know that we would be talking about it. So deciding no right now is risky. Deciding yes right now is a lot less so. So your lawyer thinks that's a better move. But I understand what you're asking.
I totally hear you, Minnie, and agree. Now is not the time to make this decision. And maybe what we do is we open a public hearing on Thursday, and then we make a decision at admin the following Tuesday and accept written comment and invite people to come talk on Tuesday as well. And then we put it to a vote. And that's only a handful of days. It's a week from now, so it's not, and the campaign is. I feel like pausing for a week right now is not going to cripple any campaign where the decision's made in November.
And Dave will be back on
And
Thursday.
Dave will
too.
be back as well.
So he can be the
Dave will be
tiebreaker.
back,
'Cause
and
I am comfortable with
yeah,
being
and so we
less
need
risky and.
at this moment we need a tiebreaker. And Dave will be back, and Brian and Vinny. I completely appreciate your advice and taking it to heart, and would also love to hear what Brian has to say, because he considered similar issues when we dealt with the lighting piece.
Yeah,
Is that
commissioners, we will add that to Thursday's meeting.
Can we do it so we add it to Thursday's meeting, open a hearing, and then make a decision on Tuesday, so there's time for people to comment?
Oh, it won't be on Thursdays, 2:00. Sorry, go ahead.
I think you can open a public comment period. What I would be hesitant to say is that you'd be able to adopt it by the next Tuesday, because we won't have anything drafted as far as an official policy for somebody to comment on.
What if we did Thursday to Thursday?
We might be able to get something drafted in that amount of time. I obviously, I don't want to presuppose Brian's availability either in there for actually drafting a policy, but I
Not here. We should presuppose all day long. I'm just joking. Happy
know you are,
birthday,
Josh.
buddy.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
I think one suggestion I have is that you can make this decision about this one thing, at least somewhat, without respect to a full and robust policy that might take us longer to decide. But just like just having it on the agenda on Thursday would make me an awful lot more comfortable with either decision.
Yeah, and I think we can word the item to be a decision on this and potentially open, a process that would be around a long-term policy, right? So.
Okay, and then should we warn Brian tomorrow that we may need a policy based on the decision we make?
I bet we can do that.
Ready?
Brian and I will
Just to give
definitely
them
talk
an
about this. Don't
FYI.
worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for your thoughtfulness on this, Vinny.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
And do we need to reach out to the applicant in this case and say we're taking this up and that's how this is moving along?
I will let them know for Thursdays, definitely, because of course they were, they'll want a decision. What I will let them know is that the commission will be discussing it and making a decision on their specific request on Thursday and contemplating whether a formal policy needs to be created, I think is how I'll phrase that.
Perfect. It's the truth too.
Yeah. Well, which is what we try to do.
Always
So I was going to say, which is what we
You
try
don't
to do.
need the
anyway,
comma
so.
too.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
thank
Danny.
you
all right. Thank
Thanks
you, Commissioners.
for-
Commissioners.
walking us through that.
Yeah.
Signings, other comments? Well done. Okay, thanks everyone. Enjoy your Tuesday.